Nobody noticed Danny Reeves walk into the classroom. This was normal. Humans were still new to the galaxy, and a small 14-year-old boy carrying a cage was not exactly worth attention when your classmates included 8-foot reptiles and creatures with 4 arms. Danny found an empty seat in the back corner and set the cage on the floor beside him. Inside, a gray and white animal with small eyes watched the room without moving. The teacher, a tall insect-like being called Professor Sin, checked her datapad. "We have a new student today, Daniel Reeves from Earth." A few heads turned. Most turned back quickly. Humans were not impressive. They were small, soft, and came from a planet that most species considered barely survivable. The fact that humans had made it to space at all was seen as a lucky accident. "What is in the cage?" Professor Sin asked. Danny stood up slowly. "His name is Radel. He is a honey badger. He is my support animal." Silence. Then laughter. A large reptilian student in the front row turned around. His scales were dark green, his teeth were sharp, and his name was Grillo. He was Torvin, from a warrior species that valued strength above everything else. To Grillo, Danny looked like food. "A support animal," Grillo repeated. "You need a tiny fur creature to feel safe." More laughter filled the room. Danny said nothing. He sat back down and looked at Radel through the cage bars. The honey badger looked back at him with calm, dark eyes. Professor Sin restored order and began the lesson. Danny took notes quietly. He had learned long ago that responding to bullies only made things worse. Better to stay invisible. After class, Danny walked through the curved hallways of Outpost Gamma 7. The station was massive, home to thousands of beings from dozens of species. His mother, Captain Nora Reeves, ran a small cargo hauling business. They had moved here after their previous station was shut down. Danny was used to moving. He was used to being the new kid. He was used to being alone. He found their small quarters on level 14 and went inside. The room was tiny, with 2 sleeping pods and a small cooking area. His mother was packing supplies into a bag. "I have to leave tonight," she said. "The Holloway contract. 2 weeks to Rim Station and back." Danny nodded. He had expected this. "You will be okay?" his mother asked. "I have Radel." Nora smiled and knelt down to look at the honey badger. Radel pushed his nose against the cage bars, and she scratched the top of his head. "Take care of my boy," she told the animal. Radel made a soft sound that might have been agreement. After his mother left, Danny let Radel out of the cage. The honey badger explored the small room, sniffing corners and checking under furniture. He was not large, maybe 10 kilograms. His claws were sharp, his fur was thick, and his teeth were made for tearing. But nobody on this station knew what a honey badger was. To them, Radel looked like a harmless pet, something to laugh at. Danny sat on his sleeping pod and watched Radel settle onto a cushion near the heating vent. 2 weeks, Danny said quietly. "Just stay out of trouble for 2 weeks." Radel yawned, showing every one of his teeth. The next few days were difficult. Grillo and his friends made Danny their favorite target. They knocked his food tray out of his hands in the dining hall. They shoved him into walls when teachers were not looking. They called him names that did not translate well, but clearly meant weak and pathetic. Other students watched, but did nothing. There was a small Pelori girl named Mira who sometimes looked at Danny with what might have been sympathy. She had soft feathers instead of hair and large, worried eyes. But she never spoke to him. She was too afraid of Grillo. One day, Grillo stopped Danny in a corridor and pointed at Radel's cage. "That thing," Grillo said. "It looks like something I would eat for breakfast." His friends laughed. Danny held the cage closer. "He is not food." "No." "Then what is he? What can something that small possibly do?" Danny looked at Grillo. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Not fear. Something else. "You do not want to find out." Grillo leaned closer. His breath was hot and smelled like meat. "Is that a threat, little human?" "No," Danny said quietly. "It is a warning." Grillo laughed and walked away. His friends followed, still chuckling. Danny continued to his quarters. Once inside, he sat on the floor and opened the cage. Radel walked out and climbed into his lap. Danny held the small animal close and felt the vibration of Radel's breathing against his chest. "I know," Danny whispered. "I know you want to, but not yet." Please. Not yet. Radel looked up at him with those dark, intelligent eyes. The honey badger understood patience. He understood waiting. But honey badgers also understood something else. They understood that every bully eventually made a mistake. The food cube hit Danny in the back of the head and bounced off the floor. Laughter erupted from somewhere behind him. Danny did not turn around. He kept walking toward the dispensary counter, picked up his tray, and found a seat in the corner. Radel's cage sat on the bench beside him. The honey badger was awake, watching the room through the metal bars that a week had passed since Danny's arrival on Outpost Gamma 7. The bullying had not stopped. If anything, it had gotten worse. Grillo and his 3 friends had made Danny their daily entertainment. They stole his ration cards. They blocked him in corridors until he was late for classes. They whispered about him loud enough for everyone to hear. Look at the little human and his little pet. I heard humans cry water from their eyes when they are scared. Maybe we should find out. Danny ate his food slowly. He had learned not to react. Reactions only encouraged them. Better to be boring. Better to be invisible. But Radel was not invisible. The honey badger sat perfectly still in his cage, and his stillness caught attention. Other species had pets that made noise, that moved around, that showed emotion. Radel did none of these things. He simply watched. The aliens. This looked like fear. A tiny prey animal frozen in terror. They found it amusing. They did not understand that Radel was not frozen in fear. He was frozen in focus. There was a very important difference. After lunch, Danny walked to his next class. He kept to the walls, avoided eye contact, and moved quickly. These were survival skills he had learned long ago, but he was almost at the classroom when Grillo stepped out of the side corridor and blocked his path. "Human," Grillo said. "I've been thinking." Danny stopped. "About what?" "About your pet." Grillo smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "It bothers me. You carry it around like it protects you. But we both know it cannot protect anything. It is just a fur ball." Danny said nothing. "So I have decided," Grillo continued. "I'm going to take it. I'm going to show everyone on this station what a joke Earth animals are." Danny's grip tightened on the cage handle. Do not what?" Grillo stepped closer. He was nearly 3 times Danny's size. "Do not take your toy? Do not show everyone how pathetic you are." The other students in the corridor had stopped moving. They were watching now. Mira was there too, her feathers pressed flat against her head in anxiety. Danny looked up at Grillo. His voice was quiet but steady. "I'm asking you to walk away." Grillo laughed. "You are asking me?" "Yes." "And what will you do if I refuse?" "Cry? Run to the teachers?" Danny's eyes changed. Just for a moment. The fear was gone, replaced by something that did not belong on the face of a small human boy. It was not anger. It was not threat. It was something closer to sadness. "No," Danny said. "I will not do anything. But I cannot promise what he will do." Grillo looked at the cage, at the small, still animal inside. He laughed again, louder this time. "That thing? That fur ball? I could crush it with one hand." Danny's expression did not change. "You could try." Something in Danny's voice made Grillo hesitate. Just for a second. Then his pride pushed the hesitation away. "Tomorrow," Grillo said, "after classes, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to take that animal. And there is nothing you can do to stop me." He walked away. His friends followed. Danny stood alone in the corridor. His hand was shaking slightly, but his face was calm. He looked down at Radel. The honey badger was still watching the direction Grillo had gone. His eyes were bright and focused. His claws clicked softly against the cage floor. That night, Danny did not sleep well. He lay in his pod and stared at the ceiling. Radel was beside him, curled up, but not sleeping. Honey badgers were nocturnal. In the darkness, his eyes caught the small emergency lights and reflected them back. "He is going to try," Danny said quietly. "Tomorrow." Radel made a low sound in his throat. "I know you can handle him. That is what scares me." The honey badger shifted closer. His small body was warm against Danny's side. "They do not know what you are," Danny continued. "They think you are prey. They think you are weak. They have never seen a honey badger attack a lion. They have never seen one dig through concrete or shrug off snake venom." Radel's eyes did not leave Danny's face. "If you hurt him badly, There will be problems. Security. Questions. Maybe they will take you away from me. Danny's voice cracked on the last word. Radel pushed his nose against Danny's hand. The message was clear. Nobody was going to take him anywhere. Danny finally slept, but his dreams were full of corridors and laughter and the sound of his own heartbeat in his ears. Tomorrow was coming, and Grillo had no idea what he was about to wake up. Mira stayed after the biology lesson ended. She told herself it was because she wanted to review the material. This was a lie. The truth was that she could not stop thinking about the human boy. There had been something in Danny's eyes during yesterday's confrontation, something that did not match his small body or his quiet voice. When he had warned Grillo, there had been no fear. Only certainty, only patience that IT bothered her. The visiting xenobiologist, Dr. Thresh, was packing up his presentation materials. He had spent the morning showing the class dangerous creatures from across the galaxy. Giant predators with acid blood, pack hunters that could take down starships, creatures that ate metal and breathed fire. The students had loved it. They had gasped and cheered at each terrifying image. Then someone had asked about Earth. Dr. Thresh had pulled up the file quickly, clearly not expecting much. Earth was a small planet, Class 4 on the survival scale. Hostile, but not exceptional. Apex predators include large cats, bears, and aquatic hunters, he had read. Humans coexist with these species through territorial separation and tool use. Grillo had raised his hand. What about the human's pet? The little gray thing. Laughter had filled the room. Dr. Thresh had searched the database. Honey badger, Malivera capensis, small mustelid species, approximately 10 kilograms. Omnivorous diet, native to Africa and parts of Asia. More laughter. Danny had sat very still in his seat, saying nothing. But Mira had noticed something. When the entry appeared on the screen, Danny's expression had not changed. He had not looked embarrassed or defensive. He had looked almost sad. Now, alone with Dr. Thresh, Mira asked her question. Can I see the full entry on the honey badger? Dr. Thresh looked surprised. Why? It is a minor species. Nothing remarkable. I am curious. The xenobiologist shrugged and pulled up the file on his datapad. He handed it to Mira and went back to packing his equipment. Mira began to read. The first few sections were what she expected. Size, diet, habitat. Nothing interesting. Then she reached the behavioral analysis. Despite small size, the honey badger exhibits one of the highest aggression-to-mass ratios of any terrestrial mammal. Recorded instances include attacking vehicles, pursuing large predators, and engaging threats up to 10 times their body weight. Myra's feathers twitched. Honey badgers possess exceptionally loose skin, allowing them to twist and bite attackers even when held from behind. Their hide is thick enough to resist most bites and stings. They have been observed surviving multiple venomous snake attacks and continuing normal activity within hours. Her feathers pressed flat. Primary defensive strategy is unrelenting aggression. When threatened, honey badgers do not flee. They attack. They continue attacking until the threat is eliminated or they are physically incapacitated. Pain response appears significantly reduced compared to similar species. Mira scrolled further. There were videos. The first showed a honey badger facing 3 large cats. The cats were many times the badger's size. They circled and growled. The honey badger charged directly at the largest one. The cats retreated. The second video showed a honey badger raiding a hive of stinging insects. Thousands of insects attacked it. The honey badger ignored them completely, eating the honey as if nothing was happening. The third video made Myra's blood freeze. A honey badger faced a snake. Not a small snake. A long, thick serpent with a flared hood. The snake struck. Its fangs sank into the honey badger's neck. The honey badger bit the snake's head off. Then it collapsed. Mira thought it was dead. The venom should have been fatal. 2 hours later, the video showed the same honey badger waking up, shaking itself off, and walking away. It went back and ate the snake's body. What is wrong with that planet? Mira whispered at the bottom of the file. There was a final note in red text. Contact recommendation: avoid. Do not handle without proper restraint equipment. Do not corner. Do not threaten. If confrontation occurs, retreat immediately. These animals do not recognize superior size or strength as reasons to avoid conflict. They will attack anything. Mira set down the datapad. Her hearts were beating too fast. Her feathers would not settle. She thought about Danny, about his quiet warnings, about the way he held the cage close, not for his own protection, but to protect others from what was inside. She thought about Grillo, about his promise to take the animal, about the way he had laughed. Grillo did not know. Nobody knew. They all thought the honey badger was a joke. A tiny fur ball, a prey animal that froze in fear. But Mira had seen the videos. She had read the data. She understood now. That animal was not frozen in fear. He was waiting. Mira grabbed her bag and ran for the door. She had to find Danny. She had to warn Grillo. She had to do something. But even as she ran, she knew she was probably already too late. The confrontation was coming, and the honey badger was ready. The maintenance corridor was empty. Danny had taken this route specifically because it was quiet. Fewer students, fewer chances for trouble, that he should have known better. Grillo stepped out from behind a stack of cargo containers. His 3 friends appeared from other directions, blocking every exit. Danny was surrounded. "Human," Grillo said, smiling. "I told you I would find you." Danny stopped walking. Raidel's cage hung from his left hand. The honey badger was awake, watching through the bars. "There is no one here to help you," one of Grillo's friends said. "No teachers. No security. Just us," another added. Danny looked at each of them. For Torvin juveniles. Each one was bigger than him. Stronger. Faster. Built for fighting. On any other day, this would have been terrifying. Today, Danny felt strangely calm. "I will ask you one more time," Danny said. His voice was quiet. "Steady. Walk away." Grillo laughed. It echoed off the metal walls. "You're still making threats? You? A tiny human with a tiny pet. I'm not making threats. I'm giving you a chance." Grillo's laughter died. Something in Danny's tone had shifted. It was not fear. It was not pleading. It was the voice of someone delivering a final warning. "Give me the cage," Grillo said. "No." "Then I will take it." Grillo stepped forward and grabbed the cage with one clawed hand. Danny held on, but Grillo was too strong. The cage was pulled from his grip. Grillo lifted it to eye level, looking at the honey badger inside. Radel stared back, motionless, silent. "This is what you were protecting? This is what you were so worried about?" Grillo shook the cage. "It does not even make noise. It is just sitting there." "Let him go," Danny said. "Or what?" Danny's voice dropped low. "I'm not asking for my sake. I am asking for yours. Put down the cage and walk away. This is your last warning." Grillo's friends laughed. But Grillo himself hesitated. Just for a moment. There was something wrong here. The human was not crying, was not begging, was not even trying to run. Why was he not afraid? Pride won over instinct. "I'm going to open this cage," Grillo said, "and I'm going to show everyone what happens to pathetic Earth creatures." He unlatched the door. Radel moved. There was no hesitation, no warning growl, no moment of tension. One instant the honey badger was in the cage, and the next instant it was on Grillo's face. Grillo screamed. Claws dug into his scales. Teeth found the soft skin around his eye. Radel was not just attacking. He was destroying. Grillo grabbed at the animal with both hands, trying to pull it off. Radel's loose skin twisted in his grip, and the honey badger simply rotated and bit Grillo's finger down to the bone. "Get it off!" Grillo shrieked. "Get it off me!" His friends rushed forward. One reached for Radel. The honey badger released Grillo's face, dropped to the floor, and launched at the new threat. Teeth sank into the friend's leg. The friend fell, screaming. The third Torvin tried to stomp on Radel. The honey badger dodged, climbed up his leg, and raked claws across his face. Blood flew. The fourth friend turned and ran. He did not look back. Grillo was on the ground now, clutching his face. Radel returned to him. The honey badger stood on Grillo's chest and stared directly into his eyes. For the first time in his life, Grillo felt true fear. The animal was covered in blood. Some of it was its own. One of Grillo's friends had managed to hit it hard enough to open a wound on its side. But Radel did not seem to notice. Did not seem to care, he just stared. And Grillo understood. This creature was not going to stop, no matter how big the enemy, no matter how much pain. It would keep attacking until everything that threatened it was dead or running. Call it off, Grillo whispered. Please. Danny stood nearby. He had not moved during the fight. His face was expressionless. Are you going to touch me again? Danny asked. No. Are you going to touch him again? No. Never. I swear. Danny knelt and extended his hand. Radel. Enough. The honey badger looked at Danny. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Radel stepped off Grillo's chest and walked to Danny's side. Danny picked him up gently. Blood stained his clothes. He did not seem to care. The sound of running footsteps echoed down the corridor. Station security. Danny stood waiting. Radel rested in his arms, still growling softly, eyes still fixed on the injured Torvin. The security officers rounded the corner and stopped. They saw 3 large reptilian juveniles bleeding on the floor. They saw one small human boy holding a small animal covered in blood. What happened here? The lead officer demanded that Danny's voice was calm. I warned them. Grillo lay on the ground, staring at the ceiling. His arm was mangled. His face was bleeding. His pride was destroyed. We hit it, he said, his voice shaking. We hit it so many times. It would not stop. The security officer looked at the honey badger. Radel looked back, and slowly, carefully, the officer took a step backward. Some creatures did not need to be large to be terrifying. Some creatures just needed to be fearless. Station Master Vorn had seen many things in his long career. Pirates, criminals, diplomatic incidents that nearly started wars. But he had never seen anything quite like the security footage playing on his screen that a small human boy, a smaller Earth animal, and 3 Torvin juveniles, each one 4 times the boy's size, reduced to bleeding, screaming chaos in under 20 seconds that he played it again. The animal moved so fast, so precisely. It knew exactly where to strike. It showed no fear, no hesitation, and worst of all, no reaction to pain. The footage showed the creature taking hits that would have stopped most animals its size. It simply absorbed them and kept attacking. Vorn stopped the playback and looked at the human boy sitting across his desk. Danny Reeves, 14 years old, small even by human standards. Completely calm, beside Danny's chair, the honey badger sat in a medical transport container. A station medic had cleaned and treated a wound on its side. The animal had not resisted. It had simply watched everyone with those dark, patient eyes. Tell me what happened. Vorn said that Danny's voice was steady. They cornered me in the maintenance corridor. They blocked all exits. Grillo said he was going to take Radel. I asked them to leave. 3 times. You asked them to leave. Yes. And when they refused, Grillo opened the cage. Radel defended himself. Vorn leaned back in his chair. Defended himself. Yes, sir. Vorn looked at the footage again. The honey badger had not just defended itself. It had systematically dismantled 4 larger creatures with terrifying efficiency. The Torvin are in the medical bay, Vorn said. Grillo's arm requires regeneration therapy. One of the others has nerve damage in his leg. All of them are experiencing what our counselors are calling acute psychological trauma. Danny said nothing. They claim they tried to stop the animal. They hit it. Multiple times. They did. And it did not stop. No, sir. It did not. Vorn was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him since he first saw the footage. This animal, it is legal to keep as a pet on Earth. With permits. Yes. And humans keep these animals in their homes. Near their children. Some do. They bond very strongly with their owners. Vorn stared at the transport container. The honey badger stared back. Its eyes were calm. Its body was relaxed. It looked like it could fall asleep at any moment. But Vorn had seen the footage. He knew what that calm exterior was hiding. Your species, Vorn said slowly, is insane. Danny almost smiled. We hear that a lot, sir. Vorn dismissed Danny with a warning to stay out of trouble. The boy left with his animal, and Vorn sat alone in his office, thinking. Word spread fast on a station this size. That'd be why the next morning, everyone knew what had happened in the maintenance corridor. The security footage was classified, but witnesses talked. The injured Torvin talked, though they did not say much. Mostly they just stared at walls and flinched at sudden movements. Danny walked to class that day, and something was different. The corridors were not crowded, but they felt empty around him. Other students stepped aside as he approached. Eyes followed him, then quickly looked away. Nobody laughed. Nobody whispered. Mira found him at lunch. She sat across from him, her feathers still slightly puffed with nervous energy. "I tried to find you yesterday," she said. "Before it happened, I read the database entry on honey badgers. I wanted to warn Grillo." Danny looked at her. "Would he have listened?" Myra's feathers settled. "No, probably not." They ate in silence for a moment. Then Mira asked, "Why did you not tell anyone what Radel could do?" Danny shrugged. "Would anyone have believed me?" She thought about this. A small human boy claiming his tiny pet could defeat creatures 4 times his size. No, nobody would have believed it. "They believe it now," she said. Danny looked around the dining hall. Eyes turned away whenever he glanced in their direction. Even the adults seemed nervous. "Yes," he said quietly. "They do." That evening, Danny received a message. The other humans on the station, about a dozen families who worked various jobs, wanted to meet with him. When he arrived at the community room, they stared at him like he was a celebrity. "The whole station is talking about it," said Mr. Okonkwo, a cargo loader. "They are treating us differently. Respectfully, some of them are actually afraid." "We have been here for 2 years," said Mrs. Tanaka, who worked in the medical bay. "Nobody ever gave us respect before. What changed?" Danny looked down at Radel, who was exploring the room and sniffing at furniture. "They learned something about Earth," Danny said. "Something they should have known from the beginning." Mrs. Tanaka looked at the honey badger. "What is that?" Danny met her eyes. "That on our world, nothing survives by being weak. Not even the small things." 2 weeks passed faster than Danny expected. The station felt different now. Smaller, somehow. Or maybe he just felt larger. When his mother's cargo ship docked at Base 7, Danny was waiting at the arrival gate. Radel sat on his shoulder, watching the passengers disembark with those dark, calm eyes. Nora Reeves stepped off the ramp and stopped. She looked at her son. She looked at the corridor behind him, where other species stepped carefully around them, giving wide berths and avoiding eye contact. "What happened while I was gone?" she asked. Danny smiled. "Made some friends." Nora raised an eyebrow, but did not push. They walked home together, and she noticed the changes. Shopkeepers nodded respectfully. A Torvan maintenance worker actually bowed as they passed. A group of children from multiple species moved aside quickly, whispering to each other. "Danny," his mother said slowly, "why is everyone looking at us like that?" Radel made an impression. Nora looked at the honey badger on her son's shoulder. Radel yawned, showing every one of his sharp teeth. "I see." Life on Outpost Gamma 7 settled into a new pattern. Danny attended classes without incident. Nobody mocked him. Nobody stole his food. Nobody even raised their voice near him. Grillo had returned to school, his arm finally healed. He did not look at Danny, did not speak to him. Whenever they passed in corridors, Grillo found somewhere else to be. Fast, Mira became Danny's first real friend on the station. She was curious about everything related to Earth. Every day, she had new questions. "Your planet has insects that eat wood, and you build houses out of wood anyway." "Some houses." "Yes." "There are snakes that can swallow animals whole, and you keep some as pets. They are actually pretty gentle." "Mostly, you have fish with teeth that can strip meat from bone in minutes, and people swim in the same rivers." Danny shrugged, not usually on purpose. Myra's feathers stood straight up. She stared at Danny like he was an alien, which, to her, he was. "Is Radel the most dangerous animal on Earth?" she asked one day. Danny actually laughed. "Not even close." Mira did not ask any more questions that day. The station's official safety bulletin was updated quietly. Most residents did not read safety bulletins. They were boring, full of regulations about airlock procedures and emergency protocols. But this update spread through the station like fire. Under the section on approved companion animals, there was a new entry in bold red text. Terran fauna notice. Humans from the planet Earth may be accompanied by creatures classified as pets or emotional support animals. Do not assume these creatures are harmless based on size, appearance, or behavior. Many Earth species possess survival adaptations that allow them to threaten or harm beings significantly larger than themselves. Specific guidelines. Do not approach Terran animals without owner permission. Do not attempt to handle, restrain, or provoke. Do not make threatening gestures toward the animal or its owner. In case of aggressive behavior from Terran fauna, do not attempt to fight. Retreat immediately. Seek medical attention. Additional note. Honey badgers are specifically flagged for enhanced caution. If encountered, maintain minimum distance of 5 meters. Do not make direct eye contact with the animal. Do not run, as this may trigger pursuit behavior. These creatures do not recognize superior size or strength as deterrents. They do not retreat. They do not stop. Treat all Terran fauna as potentially dangerous until proven otherwise. Danny read the bulletin on a public screen near the market. He laughed quietly to himself. Radel was in his lap, being scratched behind the ears. The honey badger made a soft, contented sound. Anyone watching would have seen a small boy with a small pet. Harmless, gentle, sweet. Nobody was fooled anymore. Danny stood and walked through the market. Species of all kinds moved aside. Eyes followed him, then looked away. Some beings actually crossed to the other side of corridors when they saw him coming. He was not proud of this exactly. He had not wanted to hurt anyone. He had warned them multiple times. But there was something satisfying about not being invisible anymore. About not being a joke that he was still small, still young, still human. But now they knew what that meant. That night, Danny sat in his quarters with Radel curled up beside him. His mother was cooking dinner. The small space smelled like actual food, not nutrition cubes. You seem different, Nora said. More confident. I feel different. Because of what Radel did. Danny thought about this. Partly. But also because I learned something. What? Danny stroked Radel's thick fur. The honey badger was asleep, but his ears still twitched at every sound. Back on Earth, I was just a kid with an unusual pet. Nothing special. But out here, we're something more. We are survivors from a world that tries to kill everything on it. Every human, every animal, everything that lives, there has been fighting for millions of years. He looked at his mother. They called Earth a death world. They meant it as an insult. But it is not an insult. It is the truth. And that truth means something. Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. When did you get so wise? Danny grinned. I had a good teacher. Radel opened one eye, looked at Danny, and went back to sleep. Outside the viewport, the stars turned slowly. Somewhere out there, billions of species lived on billions of worlds. Most of them had never heard of Earth. Most of them would never meet a human. But on Outpost Gamma 7, everyone knew, everyone remembered, and nobody would ever laugh at the Earthling kid again.